Well, welcome Hubcast listeners to my very first Hubcast strategy interview where I try to not make a fool out of myself. I am here with Kyle Bento. Kyle, I would love for you to just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do.
Yeah, I'm Kyle. I'm a huge nerd, so I should fit right in with the rest of the Hubcast crew here. I was really looking forward to telling them that it was your first interview, so
I beat you to the punch.
Stole that one from me. I started at Impact as a business development rep and help us build out a lot of the business development processes, which involved a lot of HubSpot. And now I transitioned over to video, so I get to make awesome videos that help people do things like use HubSpot and learn inbound and learn about Impact, all sorts of fun stuff like that.
Kyle, what do you like to do outside of working at Impact?
I think if most people were to be like giving a fun fact about Kyle, they'd probably say something about drones. I've built drones in the past and things like that. So you'll probably find me nerding out about something with electronics or technology, something like that, yeah.
Love it. Kyle and I also connect over our mutual love of the band Oh Wonder, which you haven't listened to, you should totally listen to.
We'll drop a video somewhere.
Yeah. So let's jump into it. Today we're going to be talking about historical optimization, which is something that both of us actually get really excited about. So Kyle, why don't you explain to people, if they don't know, what we mean by the term historical optimization, what it is?
When we're creating content, when people are going out and creating content, they're so often thinking about what the next piece of content that they can make or the next thing that they can do to make their website convert better, or a piece of content to convert better. And historical optimization is the idea of looking in the opposite direction. So looking back at the work you've already done and then saying, how can I get the most out of this? So when we look back at content, we have a lot of data on how it's performing, right? So you've got really high converting content. You've got content that's just crushing it in the traffic generation, whether it's from Google or from referrals, whatever that might be. And historical optimization is the idea of going back at that and saying, am I doing everything I can to make sure that this is, that I'm getting the most value out of this work that I've done?
So when do you know that it's time to start doing something like historical optimization, or is it something that people should just be doing all the time?
I think it's good to be in a regular cycle of it. So whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, whether it's yearly, it's good to just go back and look at content, not only to determine how to create more high-performing content and like taking the things that have worked well for you in the past and learning from them, but also to go back to those old pieces of content and optimize them.
I think the word optimization, right, we use a lot as marketers. We love the word optimization. And I actually had a client recently, I was talking about optimizing a meta description, and she was like, what do you mean by the word optimize? Because I think we use it in a lot of different ways, right? There's search engine optimization, there's conversion rate optimization. So when you're talking about optimizing old content, what do you actually mean? Like, what are some practical things that people can do to actually do historical optimization on their content?
I mean, it's simple. You just go in there and you just optimize it.
Yeah, guys.
All right, this is it.
Just optimize.
No, I'm just kidding. Optimization. So I think of it taking two forms, right? You've got content that is doing really well from a search standpoint. So you have articles that are really well optimized. It's surrounding terms that people are actually searching for, and you're probably generating a ton of organic traffic from it. So when I think of those things, I'm thinking, how can I make sure that when someone lands on that blog article that they're getting the exact experience that I promised them when they searched for the term and found my blog article? So a lot of that comes down to updating the article, making sure it's up to today's standards because things change so fast. And another great thing you can do with that is actually create an offer that is specific to that blog article. I don't know about you, but when I publish a blog article, most of the time I'm looking for the content offer that most closely matches it, but there's never the perfect match. Sometimes there's a perfect match, there's normally not the perfect match. If you're going back and looking at content that's performing incredibly well, we're talking about driving tons of site visits for you, it might be worth creating a piece of content, the next step after that blog article, specific for that article. So when we do historical optimization, sometimes we're looking back at those things and saying, how can we take the next step with this? The other side is saying, well, you might have a blog article that is actually converting really well. When people do find it, they're really taking the next step, or they're really, spending a lot of time on that blog article, sharing it, things like that. So we want to make sure that more people get in front of that. So we'll do things like improve the images for that blog, make sure that we're doing better keyword research for that blog. Really making sure that we're going through the SEO checklist. Sometimes when we're publishing things, we can move so fast that we're not really doing the full due diligence. But if we have a piece of content that someone is reading and clearly, enjoying and trying to learn more from your organization from that point, it makes so much sense to make sure that you do everything you can to get more people in front of that. Make sure that Google does recognize it as the great piece of content that all your data shows it is.
That's good stuff. One thing that I've been thinking about is, and here's a little tidbit for you guys if you haven't heard, Google recently lengthened the character count that they'll show on search engine results. So to like 230 to 320 characters, and it used to be, couldn't really be over like 160, 165. So you have like almost twice as much space now to tell people what your article is about. And they also lengthened the title, the amount of characters that you can have in a title. So that's another really awesome way to optimize your posts, not just for keywords, but if you optimize the meta descriptions, you have a lot more room in those meta descriptions to not just tell people what the article is about, but to write conversion copy to get people to start clicking through, because conversion really starts on the search engine, right? Especially with blogs where we're trying to drive organic traffic. So I think that's a little tidbit for everybody out there. Optimizing those meta descriptions for Google is a great way to start with your historical optimization.
That's such a good point. I mean, search is changing so fast, the algorithms are changing so fast, and a lot of times we'll take new information, like what you just gave us right there, and we'll be like, okay, from now on I'm gonna take advantage of that. But how often do we go back and optimize everything? All the things that are actually ranking now, that could be the difference between, being the 6th result or being on the 2nd page to jumping up to the 1st page or jumping up to the 1st result. So that's cool.
Historical optimization. Are there any other quick tips that you would have for anybody that's looking to start historical optimization? Anything that they should make sure that they don't miss, or any common misconceptions or mistakes that people make when they're trying to historically optimize?
I've got one. I don't know if there's a common mistake, but it has to do with being too safe. So sometimes we look back and we've got, we historically optimize, and oftentimes we're looking at all those top performing articles. So we might be taking a look at the top 20% of our highest performing content. But that kind of begs the question of, what do we do with the rest of that content? The 80% that fits under there, do we just not really deal with it? Do we not touch it? It's impossible to have enough time to do everything. So how do we get value out of that stuff that isn't really performing that well? I like the idea of going back to blog articles that aren't performing well. So let's say you got a blog article, we all have them, that's getting 2 or 3 views a month. It's not really doing too well. You're on page 45 of search results. I like the idea of taking a bunch of those articles surrounding a similar topic and combining them into one mega article. We did this with our conversion rate optimization article when we realized that conversion rate optimization was becoming a really hot topic. We had a bunch of, small bits of information, kind of keyword optimized around the idea of conversion rate optimization, but it was a little bit here and a little bit there. And we took all these poor performing articles and consolidated them into one what is conversion rate optimization article that is massive, and it ranks much better. Like the whole ranks so much better than the sum of the parts, and it's driving so much more traffic than the individual articles would have ever even come close to. So That's another way to look at it, is saying, do I have a bunch of content that is all around the same topic that I can turn into one really compelling, really powerful, informational piece of content?
That's good stuff. And I just love the idea of repurposing content, because I totally agree with what you said at the beginning, Kyle, which was people so often focus on creating new content. I got to create everything from scratch. We got to think of all of these new articles or new offers to put out there. And we very seldom think, let me go back and see how this is performing, check in on it, not just check in on it, but figure out how I can make it better. And I think that it's efficient, right? Because if you can make your already existing content perform better, then you can spend less time creating new content. You can focus your time on creating really, really good new content versus mass amounts of content. So I love that. Hopefully you guys learned a lot about historical optimization. Kyle, so you briefly mentioned at the beginning that you were a BDR at Impact when you started, and now you're a video guy, and I feel like we just breezed right past that. So I would love for you to tell our listeners a little bit more about how that happened, how you got from doing BDR, which you did some amazing things for that side of Impact, to where you are now.
Impact's great in the fact that we're able to kind of follow our passions here, right? So as video marketing became a part of the conversation here at Impact, it was something that we needed to do, but we didn't really have a person for it. I took a passion of mine that was outside of work, which was shooting video and taking pictures and doing all that stuff. And when it was like, hey, we need to make a video for this, I was like, I'm your guy. So over time that kind of evolved, and as we got to the point where we were like, all right, we're committing full time to doing video, there was kind of a natural fit. So it just worked out perfect.
Yeah, it really did, because it really was like anytime anyone was like, we need to make a video for something, it was just like, Kyle.
I got you.
Yeah, Kyle's not the video guy, but he is the video guy. And it's been really fun to watch you step into that role and start to crush that. So to wrap it up, if there was 3 pieces of advice, words of wisdom about historical optimization or just about life that you would give our Hubcast listeners, what would that be?
Historical optimization. Go back and find your most highest trafficked articles and make sure that you conversion rate optimize those. Go back and find the articles that are converting great and make sure they're getting seen. And lastly, go back and kill all those articles that are not getting any love and turn them into incredible articles that are going to perform much better. And then bonus tip, follow your passions, because you might just land a job doing what you love.
Hey, good stuff. So if anyone wants to connect with you, where would be the best place to do that? How could they find you?
The best place to find me is on Impact's YouTube channel. We're posting a ton of content on there. Right now we're doing 3 videos a week. We're trying to do even more. So if you're into it, go check out Impact's YouTube channel. We'll drop a link somewhere, show notes, and yeah, we look forward to sharing more content like this there.
Absolutely. Well, Kyle, thanks so much for doing this with us, and we will head back to the show.
Are we going to optimize this video in 2019?